Winspiration, the way to the essential. On UK Health Radio, Winspiration brings wisdom and information for an extraordinary future. Together, we can shape the world we want to live in. So let's get real and create the idea. Be extraordinary. Welcome to another episode of Winspiration Radio. And this time is a super, really happy moment for me because now we have again Barbara Tanze. I know we are mixing a little bit German because in the intro we talk German. And we had a session already with her getting the basic instructions about the importance of breathing. And in between, I visit her in practice in a room in Slovenia and experienced it over 4 days. And I just shared her with us. I'm so happy about the experience. And then Facebook, I said in a comment, she is so good. And that's why I'm so happy she is here again, and that we maybe can give you a little bit feeling how good it is, why I say she is so good. So thank you for coming back to a session for UK Health Radio. And once again, I can say it's not just a nice experience, it's really sounds so simple said, life-changing experience with health.
Well, thank you so much that you had the courage and the trust to come here and to dive into this head on. And that you really collaborated with me, and it was just a great experience for me as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we both know if the patient doesn't want to change anything, if he doesn't want to be healthy, then the therapist can't do anything. But here is really the chance for a huge transformation. And we're talking this time a lot about transformation in this world. Life is so changing, and a lot of people are going into fear, and others are going into power. And that is not just mindset, it's really, like I thought, a cell set. And now with your experience, it's so much about breathing. And maybe when I ask you if people experience fear or what kind of anxieties about your future or whatever, with breathing, you can change a lot to feel more centered or even look better in the future. What is your take on this, or what you would suggest?
Yes, I mean, breathing is this thing inside our body that is both autonomous, so it's unconscious. We don't think about it all the time, but we can also influence it. And so even though life sometimes gives us certain breathing patterns that we don't even realize that maybe aren't the best ones, we can always get back, or we can always influence them in a way that then helps us to live easier again. So breathing is fascinating in that way. It's very individual and complex, and it's not as easy as saying breathe a little bit slower and everything's going to be fine, or it's really a very complex system within each person. And what we were lucky to do together is to kind of figure out mechanically how things may be needed to kind of be coordinated a little bit differently, so that then things could flow better, things could work better, your diaphragm was able to kind of start working again in a more efficient way. And this, of course, changes so much inside our body because breathing is the basis of everything.
Yeah. So, now, who is interviewing now whom? Like you share. You said breathing, like the Bible says, it starts with, motto word with you, so that the possibility to speak has to do with breathing. That's why you're also a vocal coach. And by the way, if you see her, if it's not on the radio, you see it on YouTube. I was also, there was a big paradigm shift that you're an opera singer, and just wow, I always think, oh, they need to be a lot so big and so, but colors was more small. So, so a lot of paradigms I needed to change. And I always was complaining because I was a tax lawyer and all the money stuff. In school, they don't teach you about money, and people can work 40 years and not understanding money. And yeah, now I'm 70 and didn't understand anything about breathing really. And we know no doctor can heal, but the body can heal us if we give him a chance. And I had so many, aha. So first aha is we talked about breathing techniques, and I came because of the book, and I wanted to learn different methods. And you said, no, we don't start with a method. And first I was a little bit, I would say irritated, but then I'm so happy because I'm teaching always in our coach education. So we teach all that. It's not just simply about the method. If the underlying what concept of beliefs or breathing is wrong. And but the way you believe most kids when they are born are breathing right?
Well, I'm a little bit allergic to the words right and wrong when it comes to breathing, because breathing is something that adapts to so many situations. So to say right or wrong would mean, that like in every second there's a right and a wrong way of breathing. So I would go away from those words, and I would say that most babies, when they're born, they have just an inherent efficient way of breathing. Unless of course they are born with some pathology or some problem that doesn't let them. And from then on, things just develop in very, very different ways. And because our breathing system is so adaptable, it can adapt to so many situations. It does. It's made for that, It's made for us to breathe faster when we are, for example, running up a hill. It's made for us to breathe slower when we're sitting on a couch somewhere. It's made for us to be able to cough and basically block off our breathing completely. So there are just so many possibilities that we have. And sometimes because of different reasons, it can be us imitating somebody who is close to us, subconsciously just imitating somebody and how they are breathing. Or it can be because of some periods of us being sick where we can't breathe well, or let's just say we break a rib, for example, and that hurts a lot. And so while this hurts a lot, and of course, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to move your ribs, this means that your body will recruit different muscles and it might just get used to that. And once your rib is healed, you just continue breathing in a way that's maybe not as efficient as your breathing was before. So it's really about having a very kind of open-minded relationship with one's breathing and just checking in like, hey, how's my breathing going? Am I breathing in a way that is really adapted to the situation that I'm in? Or am I breathing too fast right now? Am I breathing while using muscles that aren't really necessary at this moment? So I like to speak of like either efficient, inefficient breathing. It can be sometimes functional or dysfunctional, but I really want to get away from the right and wrong.
Yes.
Even though I know it's like the easiest thing to say, right?
Yeah, it depends also here on the context, and I still will keep on saying, and for some cases, right and wrong. But what you're saying is also just in the breathing in general. There is no right and wrong, and you just talked about different situations, how you adjust. But there is a topic, for example, what I experienced or what we experienced, or you taught me, you showed me that I couldn't adjust really, because let's say I was messed up with my breathing already. And when I say wrong, because I have a lot of problems, and that was for me one of the biggest ahas I could experience throughout my life and my changing. I guess in the first video we had, I talked about that I had a kind of leg, and my calves not stable enough. And someone said, "Oh, it's insufficient nutrition there. That's why they're weak." I had 30, 40 years ago a back surgery because the disc was a problem. So I had a lot, and I had the diaphragm stuff and the lung stuff. And here I say really wrong, because even the doctor who examined all my lung stuff gave me advice what is really counterproductive for the solution. And that is simply called wrong. And
Yes.
you call it more, with nicer words, paradox breathing, maybe.
Yes.
But it was really on learning this, that in the end, all my problems, and I couldn't imagine, and nobody could talk before, my leg problem, my back problem, all I could now go back and says it started with, sorry, wrong breathing. Yeah, at least at the
yes. So the word I would use here is dysfunctional. It was dysfunctional.
Yes, yeah, and this is really in a huge experience. And I tested it with some people in between. And when I asked them, and that was for me another, when I asked them, where are your ribs? Can you put your hands where your ribs are? And nearly everybody puts it somewhere here. And some say, oh, higher. But nobody really touched in the neck. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's, the first rib basically comes off the lowest vertebrae of the neck.
Yes.
So yes, the first rib starts pretty high up.
Yeah, that was first aha, but not just an intellectual aha. Okay, now I learned it for the next task in school. I make maybe the right choice. No, because I never thought my breathing problems with the diaphragm could result of neck problems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you didn't start with a method, so just let's free the ribs first.
Yes.
Nobody, it had massages and everything, but nobody focused on this. And we did it 3 days for sure. Yeah, 3 days freeing ribs.
Yep. Mobilizing ribs.
Mobilizing. Before a method comes, is there any chance, if we have the right technique, that your body can do it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question. If by just thinking of breathing in a functional way, if you can make your ribs move again, if they were not really mobile before. And it really depends on so many things, which is why for me it's really so important to work individually with clients and not just to throw out some breathing exercises, because every person is different, and sometimes also, as you maybe experience, even our own like two sides of the rib cage aren't the same, or some ribs move more easily and some others don't. And so without really trying to find just an assessment of what's going on, of course, breathing exercises can still help us to kind of calm down our nervous system, or, go into certain states or something like this. But if we're looking for coming out of dysfunctional breathing into something that is more functional, we need to look at the mechanics and at the physiology and the nervous state. But the mechanics are really the thing that can just limit us a lot. And, it's just the big structure that needs to learn again sometimes how it can move, because sometimes it has forgotten that the ribs, sometimes if we haven't used them in a mobile way for many, many years, they just are not kind of wired that way anymore. And we need to kind of remind them that they can move.
It was really, in my case, I would say, really counterproductive what happened. Like, if I just simply, that's why I point to the the ribs in the back, but losing it up and everything was, my head could move different. Then the spine could adjust. But this understanding, because the problem here, okay, then the vertebra is not straight, and then you get the problem in the back. And because of these kind of whatever posture, my legs couldn't be really straight, so balancing stiffened. And so over years, now my calves, different muscles were used. The balancing was difficult. Because the balancing was difficult, I had more stress. What made more stress?
Yes.
Breathing was, so it got worse and worse.
Vicious circle. Yeah, and this is the beauty of just manual therapy, where you treat the body as one whole thing, you know, and you don't just look at one symptom, but you kind of try to understand if that symptom is just a symptom, or if it is the cause, or if you know, it's kind of like peeling an onion.
Yeah.
You see, in the beginning, you see certain things very clearly, but then once you kind of start to move one thing, it puts other things into motion. And yes, I'm very, very happy that I decided to go back to studying, you know, at almost 40 years old, and went into that manual therapy training a couple of years ago, because that was just so beneficial. Because
I'm
just as
for it too.
because just as breathing is so important for our body, the spine has a huge influence on the way that our ribs can move, and on how we can breathe as well. And so if we look at this whole system only from one point of view, we might miss something. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll probably go study other things after that as well, because there's always something else that we can understand.
Yeah, but the interesting part is, with the studying, we can study how we fly to the moon and everything, or technical stuff, how we build an airplane. But what you're studying is going deeper into the body. What and why is this really functioning? And
yes,
is what we are not really aware of.
Yeah, and there's so many things that we still do not know, you know, and more research has to be done. And when we look at pain research, for example, research about everything that is happening in our brain, you know, there are so many things that we don't understand yet. And so it's really a field that, for somebody who is always going to be curious and always going to be looking for more answers, I just think it's perfect.
It's perfect. Okay, the study of how the body really works is a study also really deeping in what is natural. And that is the interesting thing. We're focusing so much on the outside. And like my experience, doctors with the legs, what they try to do, lung diaphragm surgery, and everything was more mechanic. But nobody really dived into where could it come from, like cause and effect. And I guess they don't understand it. They didn't do what you do, diving into how it really works.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, I think, really collaboration. You know, we need to understand who's good at what. Like, I'm never going to cut anybody open and, you know, perform surgery on somebody. And I think it's absolutely amazing what, you know, modern medicine can do, and the technology that we have to help people. But on the other hand, yes, like a lot of doctors have maybe lost or forgotten, or they don't, it's just not part of their job to just put their hands on people and, you know, try to understand what's going on functionally.
No,
but that's just, they have a different, they have a different job,
it,
right?
but it should be their job, because I went there to get rid of my problems, and they even made or created more problems and teaching me the wrong stuff. Yeah. So, that is well, there, and what I experienced, all the what I call the good doctors, they all, then studied on their own. It's not just coming from university. And it's a different thing, like you with cutting and everything. The technical part of what medicine can do today is incredible. But if it comes to how the body functions, I don't see that those who come from university have really an understanding from that. In the different areas,
Yeah,
hormones or
different,
nutrition and everything. It's not part
different things.
of medicine.
And that's why it's so important to work together, and to understand that, somebody is good at one thing and somebody else is good at something else. And if we work together, and then we can really, really help a patient. And so for a doctor to understand when maybe what he is doing in that moment is not even what that patient really needs, but the patient needs actually just, to have a manual therapist, physiotherapist. That's great. And the same thing is true for me. If I have a person here who presents themselves with some neurological defaults, where I just see that there must be some nerve damage or something like this, where I know that I can't do anything about it, I have to send that person to see a doctor.
Yeah.
And that's how it should work, like working together.
I will not just point to doctors. I have the same with lawyers and everything. But I also, and I said it a lot of times now, it was also my ignorance in the past. Just, oh yeah, do it, cut the back or whatever. I didn't want to think about it and take my responsibility to make research, other different opinions and so on. When it's the same with everything, the system, we have a lot of people say, if the insurance is not paying it, okay, then I don't want the treatment, huh? And that is crazy. If the health is not valued enough, or so. Then it was very interesting. So first of all, I would want to say also that the listener really get it, because I'm so excited about it. Starting with freeing the ribs and starting to move, and then I could move my head, everything totally different. And it was super different than a neck massage, whatever you did to really free the ribs. But then suddenly I could stand in a way I couldn't stand. I can't remember really when I had the last time the feeling I'm totally straight. And that is so different, like when we say, oh, in yoga and Kundalini energy, whatever. Yeah, before and now, like straight. Wow, what a different, and seeing the world also different, and feeling more like a child, more curious. So really coming back to life. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next, what you did then, helping me to exhale. Because I couldn't do this really. So the camps at first was kind of the paradox breathing. And because I was trained because of my flat breathing just for the breath, that I always, when I was needed air, and pull the diaphragm up instead of down.
Yeah.
And I was not aware of this.
Yeah.
So I might get to talking here, and it's good if you agree.
Yes,
but
I agree.
You gave me just a simple idea, and we know pictures are so important. If you inhale, really imagine the diaphragm to push down. Yeah, and just
because that's what it does.
With the air. With the air. Because what I learned also when someone in yoga, you need to breathe in the stomach, I focus on blowing up somehow my stomach. Use the muscles and not just the air.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, well, that's anatomy and physiology. The diaphragm has those vertical fibers, and every muscle works the same way. Every skeletal muscle works the same way. When we have muscle fibers, they can contract just in like the direction that they're in, and they come together. They shorten when they contract. So given that the diaphragm is here, on the inhale, the fibers shorten, there's a contraction, and the diaphragm will move down. And with that, this downward movement will basically pull in air into the lungs, helped by the ribs and the intercostal muscles that move the ribs upward a little bit. So we have that movement of the diaphragm going up, the diaphragm going down, the ribs going up, and this creates the space for the lungs to inflate into, right? And so everything else that happens in the abdominal muscles is really just a response to that. It's a reaction of the body, because of course the diaphragm moving downward will push the organs that are below it down. That's mostly the liver and the stomach. Will push that down, and those organs will need some space. And so then the abdominal muscles will just release a little bit so that they kind of accommodate those organs. But there's absolutely no need to kind of just drop your belly and kind of like push your organs down into the belly. That's inefficient and unnecessary.
Yeah,
in most cases.
And in my case, I used some methods and didn't change anything with my breathing, really. I didn't. So it was totally whatever inefficient way to go forward. So that's what I'm doing now daily, really focusing, right breathing. Can I imagine my diaphragm goes down and doing this?
Yes.
You said something else. Now we need to exhale also. So the diaphragm needs to go up. But then said, imagine the stomach, like the stomach goes up.
Yep.
That was interesting. And I tried to do it like, imagine a kind of vacuum and it pulls it up. But why the stomach? Why not the lung, not the diaphragm? Why you say the stomach?
Well, it's not just the stomach. It's all the organs underneath the diaphragm. They are connected to the diaphragm. And so, of course, with the diaphragm moving down on the inhale and moving up on the exhale, the diaphragm is going to pull everything further up into the rib cage. And the ribs also, of course, on the exhale will go back down. In functional breathing, the ribs will go back down. So they will kind of wrap around the stomach and the liver even more than during the inhale. So yes, why the stomach? It's just one of those things that we can easily imagine where it is and what it's doing, and sometimes we can even hear it. It does make some sound sometimes. So it's an easy thing to visualize inside of our body.
Yeah, it's really, it helped me a lot also, for sure, to imagine this. And like I said, Labokram, it's like and not pulling it with power, just with it follows somehow. Yes. Yeah, so I can really recommend taking care of all the rib muscles, and wherever you are, find someone who releases this. I guess a lot of people experience it when they need to have a different idea that moving is good. So not just sitting still, but moving with the whole body allows you to have total different view of life and more creativity and more joy. So we have the ribs free. Now we have the focus of diaphragm down, stomach up. And now I would like to come to the exhale stuff. Why counting to 10, and what does that really mean, and how to do that?
Yes, so the exercise that we did together is an exercise that was developed by Carl Stau, who was, we can say, probably like a pioneer when it comes to connecting the breathing and the voice in the 1950s and 60s when he started to work. And he created that exercise to help patients with COPD, that's chronic obstructive bronchial disease. So people who really have pathological issues and a lot of scarring in their lungs. And so he helped them to exhale because those people actually had issues. They were gasping for air, they were but kind of stuck in an inhale position. So the inhale is something that is active and the exhale is passive. And when we are gasping, when we can't breathe well, when we have any sort of lung problems, actually, we are so focused on this active part of breathing, inhaling, that we kind of sometimes forget, or we are kind of scared to let it go and exhale. The problem is that if we don't exhale, our lungs are full of air. And so inhaling is going to be a problem as well. Like, you can't fill up a bottle that's already full. And the same is true for your lungs. So we need to somehow help the body to exhale. And Carl Stau created this exercise where you count from 1 to 10 and you repeat that over and over and over on the same exhale as far as we can go, because that helps the diaphragm to kind of come up that little bit higher inside the rib cage. At the same time, when you're doing this exercise with somebody who's helping you with it, that person can help the ribs get more mobile. And so we are creating longer exhales that A, help us mechanically to free the ribs, B, give us a little bit more trust and also reset our physiology. So it kind of helps us to become a little bit more tolerant to CO2. And the C part, which is the nervous state, it's you kind of really feel how you start to become more calm. You go more into like a parasympathetic state. So I'm really, really happy that I learned all of those Carl Stau method approaches with Lynn Martin and Robin de Haas. So Lynn Martin was a long-standing assistant of Carl Stau's when he was still alive. And so I was really lucky to learn from her and also to learn with Robin.
Yeah. And was, again, an experience. It was simple. And here I said also how good she is, because the way you did this, it was so caring, it was so connected. And like I said it before, when we just meet here for the session, I never felt so much love in the air when you're doing it, and really, loving the process, loving the body, the energy. And I felt so safe that it's so difficult to let go, that it also helped me to let go. And you saw a lot of patience and this topic of letting go, and especially we always said it, or let go of this problem or that, but also in these times when we think that's changing so much, and we need to let go of old beliefs on the old world, we saw old fantasies. What is your experience? How important this breathing in this way is, that people can really also let go of the topics?
Yeah, the thing is that, like you said, you need to have that feeling of being safe first. Because if you don't feel safe, then you can maybe rationally think like you want to let go, but there's parts of your brain that are not going to let go if you don't feel safe. And so creating an atmosphere that is safe and where you feel loved and you feel kindness around you is absolutely imperative. Because, like, I'm not just working with a body, I'm not just working with a brain, but I'm also working with a nervous system. And the nervous system's first and foremost, it wants to keep you alive. And so if you don't feel safe, it will not let go. It won't be able to kind of keep you alive, That's what it thinks. It doesn't think like, oh, well, okay, now I'm in a place, nothing can happen to me, everything's fine. But there are so many other things, like all of your personal histories in there, and all the things that have happened to you before, and maybe, all the experiences that you already had with, doctors talking to you about breathing, or, all of those things, they are all stored somewhere in there. And so it's very important to really create a safe space where the person feels accepted and just, safe. I don't even know what other words I would use, but just safe. And then slowly, 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 it's not something that happens just like this, but slowly the body then can just start to let go and just can feel this big sigh almost of relief of, oh my God, how exhausting it is to kind of be in that fight or flight state all the time, or to be in that kind of tense state all the time, that state of insecurity, actually. And this doesn't even mean that in your mind you feel unsafe or insecure or something. It's really your body that is locked up into a certain state because, well, it got used to it.
Yeah. It's a kind of wrong idea of feeling secure. Well, interesting about the nervous system. We say, I was nervous, no? My system was nervous. It was just in my case, so I don't know what others say, but in the childhood something happened, and then over the years, always the same, that I didn't feel safe. I never could feel safe at home, so I couldn't trust my parents in this way, that I never felt secure. That's part of very early made the wrong body posture, the breathing, always afraid, and letting go then is nearly impossible because I need the protection.
Of course.
Yeah. And this is the interesting part to learn, because when you say let go, some people get the impression I need to be active and let something go or whatever. No, stop being active and just relax. And that is an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's so difficult now when somebody, I mean, nobody has ever relaxed when somebody said, oh, just relax.
Yeah.
Because that's not like, if I could, then you wouldn't need to tell me, you know.
Yeah.
But so this is why I find it so important also to bring in a lot of education, and we looked at muscles and we looked at the ribs. And I think this is so important because when we look at the structures and we start to understand them, and we understand how muscles work, and what this contraction is, and for example just the direction of the diaphragm and how the diaphragm is moving, those are the kind of things that then make you connect to your body in a different way. It has nothing to do with me, but it's just your understanding, oh, that's what's happening inside my body. And when you know how things are happening inside your body, and this is how it actually works in your body, then your brain can just make a huge sigh of relief, because then you're not fighting against yourself. When we have some, again, I don't want to say wrong, but dysfunctional concepts of what's happening inside our body. So for example, many people have no idea where their diaphragm is or what their diaphragm is doing. And then maybe they read somewhere on the internet that on the inhale, your diaphragm goes up, and on the exhale, it goes down. And because you read it on the internet, you believe that. And so from then on, your concept of breathing is inhale, exhale, right? But because this is not how it works inside your body, and it will never work like this inside your body, there's a clash, there's a dilemma, there's like you fighting against your own body because you're not both pulling on the same side.
But strangely, it feels right, because I learned that I think it's right, but
oh, you convince yourself. You can convince yourself of so many things.
So many stupid things. Yes.
But the thing is, once you and your body are pulling the rope in the same direction, that's when magic happens. And this is what I think education is so important. We need to have at least those basics. We don't need to, know all of the chemistry and, all of those kind of, even, energy production in our cells. Those are really things that, I mean, they're going to happen anyway inside our body, depending also on what we do. But okay, if we don't know so much about ATP production, that's not so important. But every single person should know that the diaphragm is moving downward on the inhale and up on the exhale. and that the inhale is the active part of breathing and the exhale is the passive part of breathing. Unless we start to use our voice, then it becomes a little bit more complex. But, those very simple things that we can always go back to in a moment of, feeling unsafe, or in a moment of other confusion in our life, we can then always just try to be like, okay, now I'm going to work with my body. And all it takes is just to be, maybe close your eyes and just think, inhale, oh yeah, my diaphragm is moving down, and exhale, my diaphragm is relaxing upwards, right? Oh, and this is so simple.
Yes, a lot of simple things. Is like in my earlier book I wrote, took me years to understand. To be rich or whatever is spend less than you earn. Took me years to understand the simple concept. We learned so many stupid stuff. So you said we looked at pictures also, and I want to say point out not just one picture, and it was really amazing. Also, she has a lot of books around her when we were sitting together, and she mentioned one topic, and she grabs one book, and boop, the page with the right picture is open, and it happened with a lot of books and explaining. And in the beginning, I thought, maybe she wants to explain me that she understands the stuff. But then I realized that what you said about the visual and understanding what's going on in my body. And here, I think, comes a very important point for me, what I think you didn't mention now. It's not just only so important as is to have a picture, but the main thing is, with all the other doctors, whatever said right or wrong, I was focusing on the outside. I was focusing on someone else. What kind of technical advice or pill or whatever should solve my problem. And nobody explained me how it works inside. And what you did with all showing me this, or at least it's understood like it, is I made a connection with my body, with all the parts I never did before. And because now I made the connection with the parts, it is like like you did it with me, breathing together, counting together. So now I can really be connected, aligned, and focusing, doing it with my parts. And that changed a lot.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I definitely didn't show you the books to show you how much I know, because I'm learning something every time I'm opening those books.
Yeah.
So it's more selfish because I want to learn more every time as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I really truly believe that, we have a brain, and let's use it, let's put it to use. And I'm always shocked. Also, when I work with athletes, for example, I'm always shocked how little they know about how their body actually works.
Mm-hmm.
And for singers, the same thing. I'm really surprised. Like if you're a violinist or a pianist, then I think it's totally understood that you need to know how your instrument works. And again, okay, the voice is a little bit more complex than a violin, a lot more complex, but at least those basic things, just to know where your vocal folds are. And for an athlete, for example, just again, to know where your diaphragm is and what it does, and why it's important to also train the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, and not just the muscles on the outside. Like, I agree that, the diaphragm will never make us look super sexy when it's trained, because you can't see it anyway. But that it's the one that is going to keep your body going. And it's the one that's going to really create those results for you in the end, because it's the base of everything else.
Yeah, understanding that it's a base, and it's a lot of basics we ignore. Like if you want to build a house and then ignore the ground, it can be very risky.
And yet we still do it sometimes because,
Do you know any kindergarten, school where those basics are taught?
I have heard, but only from another person that I just met here, and she lived in China for a very long time. And she said that in Chinese schools, children are taught, like between lessons, they are taught to do self-massage. They are taught to like calm down, to do breathing exercises. Around here in our like Western world, I think there are now some initiatives that will try to put that into schools. I am one of them. Like that is going to be my next mission, is to introduce breathing programs for teachers and students. And it doesn't need to be anything complicated or boring or something. It's going to be just very straightforward tools that teachers can use in the beginning of a lesson. Instead of having to tell the children to be quiet and let's just breathe together for 3 minutes, or let's sing a song together. I also, and I don't even know if you know that, but I also have a book coming out now very soon, which is a children's book about breathing. And that also includes a lot of action points, like how to experience your breathing, and just already for children from the age of 3, like just so that they don't forget that they're breathing, and that they realize, oh, exhaling is also really important. And, like, am I breathing through my mouth or through my nose, or those kind of things. So again, it's not about a right way of breathing or a wrong way of breathing, but I would really like children to just be aware how much more control they have over their body, how much resilience they can build if they understand their breathing. And yeah, so it's one of my next babies.
I'm totally agreeing on it, and we're preaching it more like everything, because when I said also, I was ignorant when I talked to doctors, but it's also because I never learned it. It was so simple to be ignorant. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and I came from the money side and teaching, learn a little bit. You don't need to be the expert. But when you get in problems, you easily solve it, right, if you have an understanding where to look. Or you have an advisor, like now, if I go to the doctor, I easily can judge better, is he really helping or doing the wrong stuff? Sorry.
No, what's really important is that we know enough so that we can ask questions when we are not sure. Yes. Because the thing is, when we don't know anything about a subject, then we don't even know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
And so what's really, really important, and what I would really like, is that when, kids or also adults, when they're starting to think about their breathing, because before they just don't think about it, that they start to ask questions, and there are no wrong questions. It's really, once they kind of get this little voice in their head that makes them want to understand more, then it's not a problem to find also people who can answer those questions. But, it's a completely different thing if you go to the doctor and you have a problem and you know what to ask. Yes. Because doctors have a lot of knowledge, but a lot of that knowledge you will never hear, because they think that you don't, either you're maybe not even interested in it, or you wouldn't understand it anyway. But if you go there and you're like, hey, I have this problem, please tell me what's going on. And then the doctor says one thing, and then you start asking, this is when you're going to get much better information. And I still strongly believe that, like, from any kind of doctor, you would get better information when you ask questions. And don't worry to look stupid or something like this.
And I like to add, because everything with inspiration is about, let's say, simply say, what's the purpose? And a lot of people will ask you, what is my purpose in life and everything. And we have programs like the Essence, to find your true essence. And I experience, especially now with you or the breathing, there's so many people have a hard time coming to themselves and feeling, what is it really what I want in life? for what I trade my valuable time. And it is so much easier if I breathe right, natural, because
Yes.
if I remember when I just remember, let me say remember, it's just 2-3 weeks ago or whatever, where we met and trained, but how different it is and how different you see the world, and it's so much easier to connect with yourself and what you truly want.
Yes. And to ask the right questions also yourself, like, what do I actually want?
Yes.
I remember when I started to work on my breathing, I was also in like a transition phase of being an opera singer, but I was not really satisfied with that. And when I started to work on my breathing and kind of starting to kind of become really a lot calmer, then all of a sudden, like, the question came to my mind, like, but why are you actually doing this? Like, why would you pursue something that doesn't make you happy?
Yes.
And so it's really, about calming ourselves down enough to not always be in the I have to do this,
Yes.
but so that calm enough to process things, and then those kind of questions happen. Then you have enough just capacity in your brain and in your body, enough calm, enough rehabilitation processes happening also inside your cells, that your body can start to kind of invest time into asking themselves questions. Because if you're not in that kind of state, you are surviving all the time, and as long as it's all about survival,
yes,
your brain is not wired to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Who's forcing me? Like, what am I doing? But it's just, I have to do this, I have to do that. And so we have to get away from this. And breathing can really, really help us with that.
Wonderful words for the end of the session. And it's when we always say inspiration, the way to essential, so you can say breathing is the way, or really the necessity that you can find your essentials. And if you have questions for Barbara, don't hesitate. Like she said, and I experienced, if you have time, can you make it? Ask for an appointment live at her place. Otherwise, she is ready also to make Zoom sessions to help. We will have her email and website again here under this episode. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, helping me to have a better life, quality in life. I'm so grateful, and she is so good. Thank you, and I recommend contact her. This was another episode of Winspiration, Wisdom and Information to support you getting out of illusions, false identifications, limiting beliefs. We all have the power and potential to be more, do more, have more, give more. Reality is what is possible in the universe, and the best is yet to come. If you want to dive deeper into possibilities of creating the extraordinary future, go to winspiration.global or to wolfgangsonnenburg.com. More information and some free downloads like the email program Dream Goals Reality or a copy of the book The Best Is Yet to Come can be found on the UK Health Radio website under the Listen on Demand and Presenters section. Join us again next week on the Winspiration Show for more wisdom and information to create your extraordinary future.